Um, Andy Pritchard is back again with Senator candidate John Flynn. We have our guest, if would you,
Hi, Heather Lindsay.
Heather Lindsay. Heather Lindsay's going to tell her story. I want to just give a little overview or framework to this story and why you really need to listen. It's about, this involves Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family, the opioid settlement, where basically the numbers that they claim are 500,000 people have died. The settlement that the Sacklers first went forward with is they wanted.
It's $1 million.
But, okay, the Sacklers first went forward with was $6 billion, and they didn't want to have any future suits against them. There have been arguments back and forth. They now have gotten to a place where it appears that the Sacklers are going to be able to really settle out for the $6 billion, and they also won't have any future suits against them. And the main reason is from this article from May 22nd is the reason it would be a way to get a large amount of funding, $10 billion in total, to opioid abatement programs nationwide. Many individuals, particularly those who have lost loved ones to drug overdoses, believe it's long overdue. The money will go to these different causes and stuff. However, in reality, they'll run through the coffers of states, politicians' hands, and everything else. So basically, the politicians have been bought off for this settlement. One more thing before John's finger goes up even higher is 500,000 people, because people get lost in the numbers. 500,000 dead people. If you divide that into $6 billion, that's $12,000 a person. That's nothing.
No opioid addict will receive 1 penny. No opioid addict will receive 1 penny. The lawyer from Norwalk who is funding the Norwalk suit, each town is suing on their own, is DNC chair. And if 170 people died daily in 2017, it is up to 320 now, and it's 100,000 a year. And they're saying it's 1 million people because it's been going on for 18 years. So yes, it's up to 100,000, but the average is a lot less. However, the settlement, since Connecticut received 112 million in bribes, that they're not allowing a criminal action, and the Sacklers were allowed to siphon 10 billion off to the family themselves just 2 years ago. So
The just to tighten up before we hand this, I hand this over to Heather, is this story is about a doctor who's basically one of the pushers. This doctor literally living in the Sacklers' backyard. One of the Sacklers.
Dr. Ahuja.
Yes, one of the Sacklers lives basically 7.2 miles from the very courthouse. This absurd trial and everything, and what Heather went through. Anyway, we'd like to have Heather tell her story, and you can see the connections, and it's quite extraordinary. So, Heather?
Thank you.
Lean
So
forward.
I'll start by saying that I worked for Dr. Ahuja. He was targeting me and grooming me, I should say. I bought a second house in Stamford, 2 houses up from the house I currently live in. And he kept coming by the house asking me whether or not I would assist him in reopening his medical office on High Ridge Road in Stamford. Not being that I was raised in California and not Connecticut, I didn't know that this doctor was a criminal and that his family were all involved in criminal drug dealing and money laundering and kiddie porn, et cetera, et cetera. So I went and I took the job, and I was given a lump sum of approximately $60,000 to go work for him and open his office. And there was a small contract that was made between us that if I refused to do the work that he expected from me, that it was based on a piece of property, a multi-million-dollar piece of property that I owned in California, that he would lien the property. And my niece is a doctor, and she works in Manhattan, and she came out and negotiated the contract on my behalf, and I proceeded to go to work for Dr. Ahuja. What I saw in the office that, it didn't start out that way. I began working for him until I started realizing what was going on right beneath my eyes. He felt close to me, and he revealed a lot of things that his son, who is a lawyer in Stamford, said he should not have told me. And so the stakes started getting higher and higher until I definitely was going to go to the police department. So he got the entourage into the office, the whole family met, and they made a deal that I was to remodel a house that was on the property. They basically own a complex in Stamford across from Naji Jeweler. Naji himself had multi-million-dollar lawsuits against Dr. Ahuja. They were in litigation for years. And Dr. Ahuja is that rich and well-connected that even Naji, who has deep roots with some of the oldest law firms in Connecticut and Hartford, that he lost. It doesn't seem like anyone wins against this doctor. He's got multiple victims that he has sexually assaulted. He apparently raped a woman 20 years before he got me, and nothing was done. He paid the woman $20,000 and gave her boyfriend, a brand new truck and apparently a condo in Darien. What had happened was, at the end of my employment, on my last day of work, I was drugged and taken into a back property, and I was raped. His brother and his nephew were involved in that. And I've got to tell you that as far as the Stamford Police Department, I can't say after 14 years of different litigation in different ways and all the re-abuse that I've been through the system failing me, I don't know that I would recommend that anyone step forward after what I've been through. That's how bad the system had treated me.
Is it safe to say that Captain Conklin is being paid protection money to protect Purdue, Dr. Ahuja, multiple people who are opioid pill mill pushers?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. I met with the captain.
I agree.
And he, when they were going to drop my case for nonsense, they made up and they jimmied up a reason that they were going to drop the entire arrest warrant against Dr. Ahuja maybe 2 weeks prior to them arresting him for the sexual assault. And because I wasn't going to take no for an answer, and I went to the DOJ and I went to the FBI, I met with Captain Conklin, and he said, "I will reassure you, Miss Lindsay, that this is not a drop case. We will take care of this. Don't worry about a thing. This is still under investigation."
Did he bribe you?
No. What they did,
Who did?
He had detectives under his watch that took me into, I would almost say, a padded, secured, soundproof room in the police department with my lawyer in tow, who all advised me to take the bribe.
Who was the detective? Was it Spagna?
I wouldn't know. I don't know their names.
He's a kingpin bribery asshole.
So,
But go ahead.
Yeah, so I sat in that room, and they cranked the heat up to 120 degrees, I'd imagine, and I just basically told them, as I told Dr. Ahuja and my lawyer at the time, that they could go F themselves. And I said, I didn't go through all of this and go up against Dr. Ahuja and decline and their $3 million bribe. They told me they would pay my property up in California, paid in full, if I went to the police department, and I have everything in writing. Anything I say, if anyone is interested in the background, I have it in writing. It's stamped into the police department. I have official records. So as far-fetched as everything sounds,
It's not.
I assure you, Stamford, Connecticut, they are protecting this drug dealer and his family and his son who's the lawyer, and they're still active. And there's another doctor that I know through different people that are still addicted to opioids that he's taken over for Dr. Ahuja's place.
Tell him about the brother.
Michael Ahuja is Dr. Ahuja's brother. He had a prior offense where he was bribing New York police officers that he thought were dirty cops. They weren't. They were on a sting operation. There ended up being $18 million that was confiscated in the raid, I would say. He was trying to get high-level drug dealers out of prison, not only in New York, but also in Texas. Big operation, $18 million in the back of...
$300,000 apiece, correct?
They were paying the cops $40,000 a pop, and you know.
There's one that was 300. I don't know
Yeah.
who that was.
Well, I mean, he ended up spending, I think, maybe close to a year. Maybe I don't even remember what it was.
Let's talk
You
about
can look it
how
up.
long Dr. Ahuja got in prison for what he did to you.
No,
or
zero,
What was his fine?
0 days. What happened? He was arrested by the feds, and they fined him. He ended up with a $200,000 fine that he was 100% insistent to Janet Hall, the head federal judge, that he didn't have the money to pay that. That's obnoxious. They own gas stations in every direction, buildings in Manhattan, blocks of homes in Stamford, condos in every direction. The money laundering, they fly the drugs in right through into Sikorsky Airport. The funny thing, it's not funny, but this is what I want really everyone to know. I went to the DOJ. They interviewed me hour upon hour, sometimes 6, 7 hours a day, to get every bit of information they could out of me. And then they left me hang. They went after them quietly, Ahuja's, that is, and they fined them $200,000. That's a slap on the wrist. I have people that I know that directly related to Dr. Ahuja were murdered. His wife was murdered by the doctor. His own son was murdered by him. These are drug overdoses. These people didn't have drug problems. This is at the hands of Dr. Ahuja and Nick Ahuja. I'm making these accusations. I don't care. Everyone asks me, aren't you worried about getting sued? They have taken almost everything from me. I'm in right now in court. I've got to go back to court on the 5th, the day after the 4th of July. This is how crooked these courts are. I'm a Californian. I have family out in California. They're not going to let me go and spend a holiday away with my aging family. I've got to be here on high alert and hyper vigilant everywhere I turn, because I've been beaten up on multiple occasions. Both of my vehicles were stolen out of my driveway, 81 Highclere Drive in Stamford, Connecticut. I had nigger written, if anyone knows about the incident where they wrote 8-foot letters across my white garage door, they wrote nigger in black letters. Dr. Ahuja's son, Nick Ahuja, was already involved, where he was arrested with his brother, where they destroyed King Low School the day before graduation. These are arrogant, smart-ass people that they laugh at me. They said anyone, and I hate to say it this way, but it's been heard over and over by multiple witnesses. Anyone that loves a nigger deserves to be raped. And they were the ones that wrote that on the garage door. So what does Stamford PD do? They come by because NAACP spoke out for me on my behalf. They went around the neighborhood and they wanted to ask neighbors if they saw anything. They didn't even bother doing an investigation until I put crime tape up, told everyone to get off my property or else. The chief of police came to my home. I was home alone. He came to my home with his fist in my face. He told me, if you don't take that word nigger off of your garage door, I'm going to fine you $100 a day. I have a $200,000 lien on my home. It accrues at $100 a day. They made the news think that the liens were taken off. They aren't taken off. What I'm facing right now is the loss of my home. Very soon. I don't even know what...
Second home.
Yeah, well, they took my property in California. Multi-million-dollar property. Dr. Ahuja took that property. I have a ruling from a Superior Court judge that said he didn't have any rights to that property. DOJ's doing nothing. FBI does nothing. Now, just like in the Trump case, statute of limitations. There is no statute. I have not stopped fighting for 14 years. My mouth hasn't stopped. I have falsified teeth here where they stuck a gun in my mouth. They knocked my teeth. They didn't bring the dental records to the court, so they just blew it off. Well, because of the negligence of my attorneys, they just blow it off.
Just to that point, many of the attorneys that operate within our system here in Connecticut, they're corrupt. I mean, they basically work within the system. And if they don't do what the judges want or play the right way, they're done. So they'll play how the script is supposed to be, the scene is supposed to be
And the
played out.
marshals.
And the marshals, yes. So anyway, I don't want to.
No, I think really
You know
what
what's interesting?
everyone.
Let me ask you a question. Like, I read a bunch of articles that the mayor himself was complaining about Ahuja.
Yeah,
Like,
the
how
mayor.
can we let a guy like Ahuja drug kids, get them hooked on opioids, ruining family after family? I'm outraged. What did he do?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean,
Nothing.
not only nothing. Himes was my representative. I went to public meetings, and it's humiliating. I mean, a lot of the Darien people actually applauded me and gave me a lot of credit for standing up in the meeting. They're not doing anything.
Himes
I
is
went
being
and-
accused by the DNC, okay, of threatening a guy running for Congress, okay, who was running against Himes, and said, if you don't back out of the race, I will withhold all Narcan to the state of Connecticut. Now, this is Congressman Jim Himes telling a candidate running for Congress against him, who I'm friends with. Brian Merlin is his name. He will talk. I have videos of Brian Merlin ranting about Himes. Now, Himes, for the Democrats to be accusing Himes of withholding Narcan, that's murder.
Yes.
Go ahead.
But that's, Heather, it's just an amazing story that all of this and this case and everything happens right in the backyard of Purdue Pharma, the Sacklers, all the connections, the corruption that's within the Stamford Superior Court, the Stamford Police Department, which sits right next to the court. I mean, we go back in time to 1985, the book Rogue Town, all these things. You can see the whole framework in the system that operates. And I mean,
I'm borrowing a car right now. I had two very, very well kept up cars, a truck and a car. They took them out of my driveway, and I'm not allowed a police report. And the desk sergeant got up and told me, leave the police department now or else we're arresting you. I mean,
They know where the cars are.
it's unbelievable. How could all of this? Now, next step is I'm homeless. Now, when I moved here and I worked for Dr. Ahuja, I had a home in California, a beautiful home with the pool, in Southern California, that is. I had a multi-million-dollar property up in the hills because that was my dream, to have a custom home in the hills during my retirement. I own 2 houses in Stamford. I own 2 businesses in Stamford. And yet I'm sitting here on SNAP benefits. There was a point where I couldn't write my own name. Do you realize how hard it is for a pro se litigant who has post-traumatic stress disorder and is discombobulated to converse with police officers that are 100% against you? I mean, Captain Conklin knew. They knew that this man had raped a woman prior to me. God knows how many other incidents. He beat his wife. He threw her down the stairs. Now she's dead. After I was raped, the wife got murdered. I've had different people tell me that she knew too much. She knew too much and she was stepping forward, so they had to get rid of her.
Something to mention. It's not that the state of Connecticut doesn't know what's going on because they're fully aware. But to want to run Purdue Pharma in bankruptcy by appointing a council that is going to sell opioids, the state doesn't want to police what's going on with all these deaths. They prefer to run the company in its bankruptcy by themselves, which is staggering, because I'll tell you why. It's not so much that it happened, okay? When they knew it happened, they didn't change the prescription habits of the judges. They didn't change the pharmaceutical script law of the pill mills. They never disclosed how toxic it was, how addictive it was, how it could affect you with a one-time use. So here we go. We still have all these depressed kids during COVID experimenting with marijuana now.
It's
right?
just money. It's just money.
Just
They
money.
don't want the gravy train to stop. I mean, you got
Right.
like
They want to take control of
you
it
got
and run
in-
it in
yes.
bankruptcy. It's absolutely asinine.
It's disgusting. Anyway, look, this is very difficult. I know very difficult for you to put it all out there, Heather, and I really appreciate you doing this. And
important.
and it's just important for people to hear all this that has gone on.
I guess there's one other thing that
Yes.
before I close. Judge White, I had other victims. I had a judge in Stamford that finally heard and realized I'm not going to stop fighting. And he said, where are all the other victims? Why aren't they here? So I went on a campaign, and I got all the victims to step forward. Not all of them, but a few of them that had come to me in the past and said, this is what Dr. Ahuja had done to them.
There are thousands.
Yeah. And so I lined those people up in the courtroom in front of Judge White. And I went to the prosecutor, and it took me almost a year to get the victim's advocate to even come into the hallway to give any kind of respect or acknowledgement. They're busy, they said. You know, and this is, you know, I would go home and cry for 2 months or eat 6 packs of cupcakes, you know, and then I'm in trial, and at my rape trial, there's a fat little judge. His name is Tobin. He must have lost 50 pounds in the last year. But this fat little pig, I'll call him that because that's what he called me. He said, you know, when they showed pictures of me beaten as evidence in the courtroom, he looked at the pictures and he asked the detective that investigated the rape complaint, and he asked whether this was a picture of an elephant. Now, the disrespect that I've been given, in other words, I'm unrapeable. Now I'm getting old. What are they going to say? Well, now she's a senior citizen. This has gone on for 14 years. I want my California property back. They have no rights to my property in Stamford. The same lawyer and the doctor and his lawyer's son were the ones that jimmied up the paperwork on my Stamford home. The DOJ is ignoring it. The FBI is ignoring it. What are they doing? The minute I go to the FBI, they call up Stamford Police Department and they come by 3 cars, 2 officers per car, and they come to do a well check on me.
As if you're crazy and they're not.
Wonderful, right?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, shut up or else. And when I went to California, my brother had his leg amputated. I went to visit him in February. I didn't let anyone know because if I would have said anything, they would have started the process quicker here in Stamford against my Stamford home that they're trying to take illegally. So I went out there to see my brother, and next thing I know, sheriffs were at the door inquiring about what I'm doing in California, in my hometown, where I spent 32 years, and my family still lives there, and I'm taking care of my brother. I took him out of the hospital to bring him home. My background's in nursing. I brought my brother home, and I was caring for him so he could be in his own home. But I have to have sheriffs come to the house to ask me what I'm doing in California, because this is a cover-up. And it's big, and it's deep. You've got deaths. You have, I could name 30 people that have lost their wives have divorced them. They were hooked and addicted on drugs. They're in foreclosure. They've lost their children. It's destroying families.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry.
It's too common. It's unacceptable. And yes, it seems as though it's weaponized to incarcerate, appoint a trustee over your assets so they can take all your money.
It's just no justice. This has got to stop. This is where we have to take back the authority from these courts when they're operating outside what they're allowed to do. We have to arrest these judges. We have to arrest these people.
Well, if you want to help and join us, folks, we're open to suggestion. We need people to be advocates for others, and the need is tremendous.
They,
I'm getting 4 or 5 calls a week, new people.
yeah, these stories are unbelievable. They're just shocking. Heather, I really want to thank you for telling your story.
Thank you.
And
It's amazing that a municipality would be weaponized to protect an opioid mill where the doctor himself raped his employees and got the youth of Stamford hooked to be his sales
yeah, but
force.
even more than that, you have in your backyard the main culprit, Purdue Pharma, literally their headquarters or whatever. It's 3 blocks away from the Stamford Superior Court. You can.
What's the real tragedy? It's nationwide now.
Yes, but
Because it started here.
No, yeah, but the point is right in their backyard. Here's a situation where the state of Connecticut and everybody could actually do the right thing. I mean, you have the stuff to put all kinds of people away, and they don't. Anyway, we could go on and on about this because it goes
On and on and on and
there's so
on.
many
Yeah.
stories.
But a judge not allowing me to have a victim's
Oh.
impact statement. This is a statute in Connecticut. Get it? This is, they find psychologically and emotionally a victim being able to stand up in court in front of their peers and tell whatever it is,
While
whatever.
the state is creating the victim. Hello, they are
Yeah.
creating the victim.
But I
Why?
wanted to
it's
do
the
that-
judge's treatment and the rulings that led to what?
Well, they won't give me my transcripts. They refuse. I'm not allowed to get the transcripts. They've sealed the records. Dr. Ahuja illegally tape recorded me and bribed me and in writing testified to by his own attorney because he was afraid of losing his law license.
And the municipality's in on it.
And it
How
was
much
all
does
in
Conklin
writing.
make? $1.4 million?
Oh gosh. He
That's
makes
what I
a
heard.
he makes $1.4 million in a garage situation. Captain Conklin has a side business that should be maybe like
Security.
a conflict of interest because he should be not
Correct.
allowed to have that business because he's getting paid already by Stamford Police Department. So he makes $300,000 being a police officer in Stamford as a captain of the drug enforcement. And then on top of it, he has a business
He
in
made
his
$500 last year.
yeah, he has $1 million plus business out of his garage that is a conflict because this is where he's placing the Stamford police officers at different strategic locations to keep the let's say at CVS they'll place an officer because they have OxyContin in their pharmaceutical, what?
Storage.
Yeah,
Protection
store.
money.
That's exactly
It's
what it
organized
is.
crime.
Yes.
But why is he collecting $1 million? So there was a reporter that I contacted that is out of state. She moved out of Connecticut because of her daughter dying from an overdose. And I spoke with her. And she 100% said, if I could only get the word out to the people in Connecticut, wake the hell up. Wake the hell up.
It's the
My
police
daughter's
commission.
dead, and Captain Conklin is protecting drug dealers.
It's the
And she's
town
a-
council. It's the law department. It's all these things working in collusion to obstruct justice and fix the problem. And it's perpetuated by total incompetency and bribery.
And the last but
So
not
please
least,
share this video. Share it. Talk to your friends about it. Because what happens in Stamford ends up at the New Canaan High School, the Westport
Yeah.
High School, the Darien
Yeah.
High School, all this fentanyl crap,
The-
all this drug shit is coming home to roost.
When I worked
because they
for
do nothing about it.
When I worked in Dr. Ahuja's office, the police themselves were going in there for their drugs in the back door. You had I never gave their names. I've held out all these years because they're already taking my homes. They've got my cars. I have nothing left. They're going to take, they said I could donate my furniture to the Goodwill. Are you kidding me?
Gee,
So I was a multimillionaire when I came to Connecticut, and I'm leaving a damaged person on a public assistance because I never was paid by Dr. Ahuja, although I worked for him for almost 2 years. But yeah.
My heart goes out to you folks. I mean, honestly.
If it was about money, let me.
And we're the lucky ones. We're alive.
Yeah, that's it. I'm alive. You're alive.
I met 4 moms just this summer who's had families, hardship, destruction of their family from not necessarily Dr. Ahuja, but the whole deal.
So I want to make sure on the record, I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. I've never smoked a joint. How weird am I?
Well,
I have never done a drug in my entire life. I didn't even like to take aspirin. I had friends that I worked with at the hospital that were addicted nurses. I never got into it. I was always a designated driver. So, when they tried to dig in my background, they went all the way to California to find out my history from the time I was a baby. I mean, they put that out there. They broadcasted my childhood in the courtroom. That's all over the internet. Even the DA out in California wanted to know what the hell is going on in Connecticut. Why is your life story online? Why? Because the dirty-ass judge that called me an elephant, that protected Dr. Ahuja and all of these other players. Come forward, victims. I know you're out there, and I know a lot of you can never get off of these drugs. You're hooked for life. So, but you can come forward. Look me up. Let's get a group of people and let's go down to that court and let's make things right. Let's get involved. Let's stop these foreclosures. Why are they taking our homes with illegal paperwork?
come to Heather's open court hearings. Come, witness it. If we perceive felonies occurring in front of us, we will go after the judge. You can follow Andrew's lead. I am telling you now, Andrew is not to be messed with. Right, Andrew? We need to support each other because there's no support within the state for due process rights or the Constitution. We've learned the hard way that the Constitution state, it being blue now, doesn't follow federal law, and that means
It's not even
no
it's not a political thing. This is a giant criminal enterprise that needs to be shut down, and they've basically cornered the judicial. They've cornered the judicial, and
Why don't you wrap it up? Go ahead.
they've cornered the judicial, and they've got so many judges
In their pocket.
in their pockets and everything that's going on that there is no justice. So they run loose and wild, and this is why it's becoming so obvious and so easy to call out, and that's what people have to do. I would like to just finish with this. This guy's running for U.S. Senate.
We need 7,000 signatures pronto.
We need 7,500 signatures to get them, and they don't make it easy. There's a website that you can go to.
Please do. Conklin 2022 USSenate.com. Print the form. It's right in front of you. Sign it. Get a few signatures at the dinner table and mail it.
Yep.
And then, if you're in your travels, you go to the butcher, you go to the candlestick maker, ask them. It's just to get us on the ballot.
Yeah, it's
not a vote. Don't be worried. Do your homework. Do your due diligence when you vote. You need to understand what vote the person, not the party. The ideals, the ethics, everything the person stands for, the moral fiber, the ethics, everything.
Can I
Sorry.
see this? You see that? That's a working man's hand. You see that?
I
You
took
get
a-
it?
I went swimming after work because I knew I was having guests.
He's not necessarily a good painter, but he's a painter.
I got some paint on the house. Thank you, folks,
Thank you.
and thank Heather,
Thank you.
because really,
That was great.
her story is incredible, and you need to learn by her. It's not her mistake. It's the state's fault. It's a state-created liability we're dealing with. And if you haven't noticed, the claims commissioner, which is where all state-created liabilities go to die, had 1,400 cases this year. 963 were added to the backlog, folks. That means they're not hearing any cases. Only 12 went to judgment. 12 out of 1,400 cases. Why? The stories are all tragedies, and you don't want to learn the hard way.
They just want to bury stuff. We should.
Wrap it up. Thank you. 36 minutes. Thank you,
you.
folks. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Enjoy. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Heather.